Stamford Bridge this Saturday, 5:30 p.m. Chelsea take on old rivals and the team that many are tipping to break Manchester City's stronghold on this Premier League title, and that is Arsenal Football Club. And being that we're facing Arsenal, there was only one man that I could be breaking this match down with, and that is my friend Joel Beya. Joel, what's happening, mate?
Joey, I'm doing good, man. How you doing? You all right?
Yeah, good, man. Good.
I was going to say, you look good, man. You look like I can see your training. Obviously, I know you work really hard, so I'm wishing you the best in advance already, man.
Yeah, we're getting there. I'm cutting the weight at the minute. Should have something to announce pretty soon, boxing-wise. But before we get into that, onto the football this Saturday. Obviously, it's a big match, isn't it? And I think, like, regardless of whether Chelsea are 10th at the minute, if we finished 12th last season, it's always got to be looked at as a big match when you're Arsenal and you're coming up against Chelsea.
100%, man. I think this has been a big game for us, especially since I'll probably say more for me since the Mourinho days, because that's when I really felt like, okay, cool, yeah, Chelsea are like, they're there or they're above, and I think it's been that way since. I think obviously you guys have had the more favourable results in the last 20 years, but I think as an Arsenal fan, we still look forward to this game because there is that pride of like, okay, who's the best team in London? Some people will argue that it's us because we're above in the league table and we have been so in the last couple of years, but some people will say nonsense, like the trophies speak for themselves. So it's always going to be an argument, but big game indeed.
You mentioned Mourinho there. That's obviously around the time that I think the balance started to shift ever so slightly. When we take a little trip down memory lane, what's the first match that comes to the forefront of your mind when we think about Chelsea against Arsenal?
It's probably going to be recent results. Chelsea 2, Arsenal 4 in April 2022. I mean, for me, that was when I got to see a little bit what Eddie Nketiah could do in the first team. I think obviously you got players like Saka, Smith Rowe, our boys, showing that there is a nucleus here that can go on and do something for us. So I think for me that was really important because if you're looking at us now, we're not a team full of like superstars as per se, where it's like a grounded team, do you know what I mean? And I think that result there was one of the first ones to galvanise us all together. So very important, that win at Stamford Bridge as well, by the way. So that was huge.
I think recent form is obviously very favourable to Arsenal in this fixture. Like last 10 matches, I think we've beat you twice or something like that. But for me, the first one that always comes to my mind, and maybe it's a bit of nostalgia from my youth, but earlier on, like when I was first really, really ingrained into following Chelsea and loving the football club, going to all the games and stuff like that, the one heel we had, the team we could never beat, was Arsenal. We used to lose against Man United, but we'd also pick up results against them. Same with Liverpool. Arsenal, I never saw us beat. Like I literally never see us beat you until the season when Abramovich first took over. Now in the league, you were invincible that season, so we didn't have a chance there. But the Champions League at Highbury, it was a Wednesday night match. Obviously, I think Reyes opened the scoring for you guys. Lampard drew it level. Now think about the 85th minute or something. Wayne Bridge bombing down the wing. He slots it home. We go through to the semi-finals against Monaco. And obviously that was for me, it was like the turning point, because at that time I finally went, right, the duck's off our back now. We've beat Arsenal. And it's a little bit similar to how you guys have just beat City in the league, where it's like, okay, we've now got that monkey off our shoulder, that hindrance of thinking we just never beat them. And now you can really build on it and start to be more competitive going forward. But looking at this match so far, I look at Arsenal starts of the season, and psychologically it's a weird one, because I think a lot of people, before they would look into it, just going on the feeling that Arsenal have given you so far this season, and maybe the last match against City writes this off a little bit, but a lot of people might think, not underwhelming, but you haven't got going in the same way that you did last season to start it off. And I think that's because last season, maybe you had a little bit of element of surprise where we didn't know that Arsenal were going to be that dominant early on. You'd put a couple of teams to the sword and things like that. Whereas at the start of this season, you're looking at the matches against Fulham, against Nottingham Forest, and matches like that. But then now we're looking at it 8 games in. Last season, 8 games in, you'd played Man United, you'd lost to them. But apart from that, you'd won the other 7. This time, 8 games in, you've won 6 of them, but you've got wins against Man United and Manchester City, as well as obviously the win in the Community Shield. So would you say you're stronger at this moment in time than you were last season?
I think the only difference is expectations. I think, yes, you're right. Last season, we was a surprise and stuff like that. But I think all it is this season is there's more of an expectation. So when you draw against Fulham, it feels like a loss. In my opinion, like, I don't think we've got weaker. I think we have got going. You know, I think in many areas we're better than last year. If you're looking at the inclusion of Declan Rice, we go to Crystal Palace. You know, him playing in that position completely helps us. You know, mopping away all the loose balls, etc. I think for me, it's more to do with expectation rather than to have gotten going. And you got to remember, you know, like we've had injury problems with Jesus. Then he's come back, and we've had, you know, like Saka not play. We're a better team than we were last year. I'm going to say it again. The difference is expectations. People saw us almost win the league till the last, what would you say, the last
three games, yeah.
Yeah, like 3-4 games. So I think it's right. It's a good thing. I'm not upset with expectation. I do think we need to keep our feet on the ground, and I know that I'm probably the worst at this when I'm doing the Viable 5 show because I'm like Joel Beya, the, you know, extended character, shall we say. Yeah. But I look, we're unbeaten in the league, you know, only us and Tottenham. I think it's been an excellent start to the season, and disappointing to have drawn against Spurs, disappointing to have drawn against Fulham, but it's been a good start.
So when we spoke before a ball was kicked, and we did a few predictions. And do you know what? I was actually looking back at this video the other day. A lot of your ones that maybe at the time I wasn't agreeing with, and we're only 8 games in, but say, for example, you tipped Burnley to get relegated. That was one of the ones in your prediction. I remember thinking Burnley ain't going to be nowhere near it. Now we're looking at the sort of form they're in, and that looks like it could be one that comes true. There was a few in there, but one of the first things you said to me is you said that this is Chelsea's transition season. This is where we finish 6th, maybe 7th, and Pochettino starts to get a bit of a tune out of these players, but it doesn't come right for us this season. And I said to you, I thought we were going to finish 4th. Now, obviously, look, I think that we need to see how the land lies a lot more and how the dust settles on this sort of start to the season before we can draw any sort of conclusions here. But would you pretty much agree with what you said before a ball was kicked in terms of where Chelsea are at right now?
I think with Chelsea, 100%, because I feel like, look, other teams have shown this. Manchester United, you can spend as much money as you want. They spent £1 billion. You know, if the team ain't gelled and things ain't right from top to bottom, you're going to struggle regardless. You know, whereas City, they've spent the money, but because their organisation is clear, you know, they're able to dominate the Premier League and win, I don't know what it is, that Pep's got 5 and 7 and making it the Premier League Bundesliga. You know, I think where Chelsea are, great manager, Pochettino. I'm a big fan of his. People go, why? He hasn't won anything. But for me, it's the discipline, it's the presence. I've seen the guy, I've spoken to the guy, you know, like, he has a very clear way of handling things. And I think your players needed discipline to get to know each other, you know, like figuring out what the new system is, you know, and then on top of that, you've still got 1 or 2 players that are out. So I could see already that things were going to take a while. You know, if you did end up getting top 4, mate, that's a huge achievement. But you've got to look, there's other teams that are further in the project, you know, in all their projects that they are versus Chelsea at the moment. If you're looking at City, they're the complete team. If you're looking at Arsenal, complete team. I would have said back then that United were further as well, to be fair, after the season that Ten Hag had. And then also when you look at, I knew Liverpool would be back, and obviously Newcastle. You know, yes, Champions League makes things difficult for other teams, extra games and stuff, but in my eyes, it was clear to see that Chelsea just still needed some time. And I said to you, listen, I think you'll get like maybe 5th, 6th this season, but that team in 2-3 years, if you stick with your manager, which we don't know what Chelsea's going to do. I'm still getting used to this whole Todd Bowley regime. I don't really know what he's about as per se. I know he got rid of Potter, but I'm not 100% sure what he's like, if that makes sense. But if you stick with Poch, mate, this team is going to be an absolute problem in 2 to 3 years, man. Like 2 years, I say give it 2 years, but within 2 to 3 years, those boys are going to be exceptional. And then you're going to be looking at prime Reece James. You're going to be, you know, you're going to be looking at an exquisite Levi Colwill. You know, you're going to, like, you've got some players, man. I like Nicholas Jackson once he finds his shooting boots, like for real, and he gets used to the Premier League and he starts slotting them away. My God, what a dangerous player. So I can look at players all around. Even by then, can you imagine how good Conor Gallagher is going to be? You know, how good Enzo is going to be. It's ridiculous. You're going to have, like, if not the best squad in the league by then. in terms of individuals at least.
3 wins on the bounce. Obviously, we knocked Brighton out the cup. That was a match I was really happy with, you know. A lot of people say, you faced a weak Brighton team. I don't think there is a weak Brighton team, because I think the whole point of Brighton being so strong is, yes, they've got brilliant individual talent. You've got the likes of Matoma, you've got Ferguson up front, but the whole thing about Brighton is they are a team. They lose big pivotal players in their team and they come again. And the wheel keeps turning, they keep going again. So whether they're rotated ever so slightly, I think they had 4 changes from their starting lineup. So did Chelsea. I don't really put much significance on the fact that they're rotated, and I think it's a good win to knock Brighton out of the cup. Very, very good. We then go and play Fulham, and we played really well against Fulham, and obviously it's horses for courses. Different styles make different fights, but when I look at the way that other teams, including yourself, have maybe struggled a little bit against Fulham, gave me a bit of confidence. Burnley, again, it's a team that tries to play football, and I do think that Chelsea's sort of kryptonite is a team that is happy to defend and then sort of catch you on the counter-attack, and that's what gives me the confidence going into these big matches. So the main thing that people are saying in my comments to me, and I get a lot of the time, people that just want to fish for a reaction out of it.
You got big fixtures though, man.
Yeah, I know. Looking at the games we got,
big fixtures, bro.
But then I look at that and I think, okay, we've got these big games. We've got really, really 6-7 hard games. But when I look at the fact that we're coming in off the back of 3 wins that will have inevitably built a bit of character in that side, built a bit of belief in that side to be able to go out and grind out the 3 points, am I wrong to be confident going into this match? Because I know this sounds bad, and it's a sign of the times of where we're at. My confidence isn't saying we're going to go and beat Arsenal. My confidence is saying I don't think we're getting beat in this match. Is that false confidence, or am I right to be sort of a little bit gassed up on a win that we had?
I think exclusively on your channel. Don't tell anyone. I think you're right to be confident, because I think it's all about. Football is about confidence. You know, you won your last 3 results, if you include the Brighton one, which is, I don't care if it's EFL or not, it's a big result. Do you see what I mean? I think when you're playing Arsenal, yes, we've beaten City, yes, we've done well, but my team talk to those young players who should technically be fearless, right? And it can't really go any worse than it did at the beginning of the season or last season, unless you get relegated. But it's like, I would say to them, this is it, boys. You've done well in the last few games. We can all see the improvement. Show me what you can do out there today. It's almost like you've got nothing to lose, you know, like, so for me, that whole, it's not pressure. It's not the same type of pressure where you're going, oh my God, like, we've got to beat Arsenal, because you're not even expected to beat Arsenal. No. So then it then gives the chance for players to express themselves freely and, you know, show fight, show determination, and then show the critics wrong. Like, it's an opportunity for Poch to be, this is us. We've done well in the last few weeks. This is us versus them, you know, everyone else, the media, whatever. And I think that's what Jose used to do so well before, you know, like, he had an ability to take away the pressure from his players and make it seem as if it's a team and almost make it personal. So that's what I would do, because if I'm Mikel, the pressure is for us to go and win. We have to go and win. We have to. We've just beaten City. We dropped points against Fulham. We dropped points against Tottenham. We can't drop more points. Otherwise, the City win starts to mean nothing after a while. We all know they're kicking from January. So 100%, you have every single right to be quietly confident. And that's what scares me. Because if I can 100% sit here and say, oh, we're going to smash Chelsea, it's probably me in a group chat, like, just talking for the sake of it. But it's a tricky one. Yeah. It really is.
I think, like, when I look at this match, obviously, Mikel Arteta's got a really good record against Chelsea. 11 matches as manager. I think he's only lost twice, which obviously, bearing in mind, for quite a significant chunk of those 11 matches, we would have been seen as a team that were further on than you. Obviously, it's only really the last 2-3 years that maybe Arsenal have took himself to the next level above Chelsea.
Sorry to interrupt, but I think it's only last season where we were expected to win, to be precise. You know, so every other result was a bit like, FA Cup final, right? We're the underdogs. Again, it's that same chat. Look, everybody expects us to not win. If I'm Mikel Arteta, that is, by the way, I'm saying, look, guys, get together. Everyone's expecting. So you have the chance to kind of like go, right, guys, this is us against them. It's that kind of group, that kind of team talk. And I think for once, Poch has the chance to do that for Chelsea. But sorry for interrupting you, go on.
Do you know what I'm gutted about, right? In terms of me sort of wanting optimism and saying to draw confidence in, I'm gutted that the international break came when it did, because we know that emotional come downs are massively significant in football. Like, you look at the fact that Newcastle dropped points to West Ham. West Ham are a good side, but Newcastle were always going to drop points in that match after the night against PSG they had at St James's Park. And I do think that getting that, sort of breaking that duck almost in terms of beating Manchester City would have been a massive, massive, monumental thing for the mentality and the belief of them Arsenal players. So I think if they beat Man City on the Sunday and then we play them on the following Saturday, that's when I'm like, right, okay, you know, there's going to be maybe a little bit of a mental drop-off from these boys because they've invested so much into that match. But the fact the international breaks come at that time, I think, has give everyone a chance to reset. The other thing, I think, like, again, this is the thing, right? I can't sit here, and I'll openly hold my hands up on this channel and say, I can't sit here and go, we're going to beat you because we're better than you. Because I don't believe that, and I'm not being honest with myself if I say that. But if I have to give myself reasons, I'm going to say the emotional come down from beating the Man City match. Also, another thing in there is your injuries are very significant. I know Chelsea have got 12, but a lot of these players that are injured may or may not be in the lineup. You got Saka out. You got Partey out, and Partey's one that is massively, massively pivotal for you because you know, maybe not his individual, what he's doing on the ball and whatnot, but what he does for that team, especially, you know, in that midfield. And also, another player, Trossard, you've got out, which Trossard, we know, like, he's worth his weight in gold. You know, you were thinking about going for Mudryk. Yeah. You ended up signing Trossard for half the money.
It wasn't even hot. Like, it's probably a quarter.
That's what I'm saying. And you look at how that boy has done. It's ridiculous. So you've obviously got key injuries going into this match. What I do want to know from you, before I give my one, what would your starting 11 be for Arsenal for this match?
Well,
and this isn't what you think Arteta's going to go with. I want what you would go with.
I would go Ramsdale in goal.
You would, yeah?
I would go Ramsdale in goal because I don't think he did anything that deserves the drop. And I think if Mikel Arteta is telling the truth about everything he was saying in those press conferences about, I feel like changing the goalkeeper at 60 minutes, this is your chance to do it. And I feel like if I'm Ramsdale, he's got character, man. He will come back and he'll say, right, this is me. Do you know what I mean? Like, and even if it does go wrong, he's got character enough to be like, this was my mistake, but I'm gonna, like, that's one thing I do like about Ramsdale.
I just never believed it though. When I was hearing Arteta saying that, I was thinking, mate, I remember this conversation when I was younger and I was dumping a girlfriend or saying, it's one of them where it's like, I still want to chat, like, we should still definitely meet up. It's like, I've got no intention of it, mate, you know what I mean?
Honestly, it's you could tell it was doomed from day one, innit? And then obviously Zinchenko left back. I think for me, even though sometimes I would be worried, especially with the pace that you guys have got on the flanks and stuff like that, but at the same time, what he gives us going forward, you can't really replace it, especially when we're overloading the midfield. Like, we could cause you some serious problems, you know, and especially because your players are young. So I would go Ben White right back. I think he is he's a centre back, obviously, right? But I feel like he's a better right back for us than he is a better centre back for us. As much as we bought him 50 mil to be a centre back, I think the partnership between Gabriel and Saliba, it's not just in the individual brilliance of Saliba, like the partnership between the two of them is something else. And I think that's one of the key components as to why we are where we are, you know. And I haven't been a massive Gabriel fan, but I know next to Saliba, you are seeing the best of that boy, you know? And he's still young as well, so he's still learning, you know. I would have, in the middle, you have no choice really but to go Rice, Havertz and Odegaard. Now, if I had it my way, it would be Rice, Partey and Odegaard. I think for me, that is I don't want to say world-class midfield, but it's up there. Yeah. We can beat anyone, you know. Unfortunately, that's not the case. It's tricky on the wings, isn't it?
We know one of them. We know you're having Martinelli in there.
Martinelli, 100%. I think he's our golden child. I'm glad he's back as well, because having him out, for me, you know what I mean? Like, it's you just never know. Like, he can get a goal from anywhere. I think people in football rate him even more than the people outside football. I think we rate him a lot in Arsenal, but I speak to players quite a lot, and And I've even seen interviews from Declan Rice, and they'll be like, bro, he surprised me. He's rapid. He's scary. I've spoken to people at United when he was on trial and, all that kind of stuff. And they're like, yo, this kid is really something else. Like, speak to Liverpool fans. They always go, we'll have him. We like that one. So he's proper rated, like, for people who watch properly. So you have him. I think then you've got to go Gabriel Jesus on the right and Eddie in the middle, if I'm honest, because again it goes down to squad depth. Yeah, I think that's the only thing you can do because Jesus works hard. I just hope that Eddie can get going in the league. I think that's the most important thing. If Eddie can get going in the league, then great. But I do want to see more goals from him. He's my guy, no like shots, but I need him to be firing more because. It gets to that point where when you don't have a Saka's bailed us up many times, and when you ain't got the goals coming in from him, obviously Martinelli's in the team, great, but Trossard's not there, so Jesus is further up the pitch, and we all know he doesn't, he's not as prolific as someone might want him to. So we need our number 9 to be doing number 9 things.
Yeah, I think from an outsider's point of view, looking in, when I look at Nketiah, although I don't associate him with maybe a 1 in every 2 player type thing in terms of the goals he's producing, what I would say is I have been impressed by him a couple of times when the weight has been on his shoulders. Say, for example, when Jesus was first out, we were sort of saying, there's a problem there. And then he went on a run of like 6 games where he was always scoring. So I do think he's going to be a key player for you. One player I do want to quickly touch on before I give my lineup there. You obviously mentioned the fact that you would have probably rather had Partey, if he was fit and available, in there than Kai Havertz. Now, one of the things why a lot of people said that Arteta wanted Kai Havertz was his versatility. He can play out wide. He can play in the 9. He can play in that 8 role. And at the minute, we've, apart from the Community Shield, only really seen him in that 8 role. We haven't seen him up front or anything like that.
He did well then, by the way. He actually gave City a hard time at the Community Shield.
What's your general feeling on Havertz so far? Because I'll tell you one quick little stat, which is funny. And listen, records are for DJs. Stats don't mean everything. But we all credit Szoboszlai as having a massive, massive impact at Liverpool so far.
Yeah, he's sick.
In 8 games, he's scored a goal. That's it. 8 games for Havertz, he scored a goal and got an assist. But the thing is, we're looking at Havertz, and a lot of us are saying, flop of the season, maybe.
Nah, but sometimes it's the eye test, man. It's things that we can see. So, for example, when Szoboszlai, I struggle to say his name, but when he's got the ball, he's keeping it well. He'll get the ball, and sometimes the passes might be a little 3-5 yard pass, but he's getting there. He's putting himself about. He's not getting caught out with the ball. He's so for me. Beautiful player. He's running for days. I'm not saying Kai Havertz doesn't work, but sometimes you got that kind of like lazy look as if he's not too
nonchalant.
Nonchalant's probably the word, and I think you can't compare the two, bro. And I hate it when people do that. They try to use like a stat to like make it work. Stephen Howson, he's king of doing that. You know what I mean? Like, but I think Kai, look, it's a good time for him to settle because the team doesn't specifically need him firing, at 100%. We've got players at the moment that can carry you through for now, So,
I think he's more suited in that Arsenal team. One thing I'd say is I heard a piece the other day. Someone was saying about Michael Carrick being born in the wrong era. And they were saying if Michael Carrick was born in the era today, he'd be looked at like a Rodri type. Mate, I very much think that about... but I very much think that about Kai Havertz. Born in the wrong era. I think Kai Havertz is a player that in the early 2000s, when you had that second striker system,
that Niall Quinn, Kevin Phillips type, I get
that's the one. But I mean, we're wait to draw a bit of conclusion on Kai Havertz. As I said, I definitely do think he suits this Arsenal side better, but maybe that's because there's not the reliance on him. Chelsea wise, my starting 11, I'm going to go 4-3-3. Sanchez in goal. Reece James, I'm going to bring him from the start, and once I name all my defence, you'll sort of see why. One thing that I think we've been guilty of, so I'm massively contradicting myself here, is we've always rushed Reece back too quickly, and we've been so dependent on Reece, But the problem is, when we look at this back line at the minute, right, Chile's out. Cucurella's been doing really well as a makeshift right back, but he's out. Malo Gusto is available again, and that's the only one where I'm sort of thinking, okay, maybe. But what I would say is, Reece is going to get minutes in this match. I would rather those minutes be from the start rather than coming on, because if the match goes how I'm hoping it will go, by the time Reece comes on in, say, the 60th minute or something, the game's going to be fiery. The game's going to be intense, and he's coming into a match off the back of an injury where everyone's warm. Yeah,
cold.
Exactly. It's like the old analogy in boxing. You can get caught cold. If you get caught in the first round of a shot, you could go over. And I think that actually you're going to risk Reece more if you bring him in at that point. So I think you bring him in from the start, have a little speak to him at half time, see how he's getting on.
Agreed.
Centre back pairing, obviously because of the injuries, I'm going to go Silva and Levi Colwell. And Levi Colwell is a player that I've always said like he needs to be at centre back. I think his creativity is something that doesn't get touched on so much because his passes through the lines and what he's able to do. And I think he's very much the future of England in that role as well, next to John Stones. But although I'd have him at left back normally because I think that Axel Disasi's been proving his worth, we're obviously short in centre back. Badiashiel's not back. Disasi's out of injury.
Good players, those two.
Chalaba's not been there or thereabouts. Fofana's out for the whole season. So I think you go Silva and Colwell there. Left back, this is a surprising one for me. It's going to be Cucurella. And I really like Ian Matson, but I just don't see him as a left back. And I know Poch don't see him as a left back. Like he's pretty much played everywhere but left back when he's been on the pitch for us. So I'd go Cucurella at left back. I think there's somewhat of a slight redemption arc going on there with Cucurella. He's coming up right back. He's looked really good for 3 matches. And again, we speak about expectation earlier. Is that really good? Or is that really good in comparison to where we've seen him and where we've sort of analysed him as being in terms of his ceiling?
The latter. But you'll take it at this time.
You would, yeah. And one thing I could say, and this sounds like a backhanded compliment, I suppose it is, but I don't mean it in a rude way, is not that he goes on the pitch and I think we're going to get a solid performance, but now he's going on the pitch and I'm thinking, I don't feel like you're going to let us down. Do you know what I mean? Whereas before it was like, there's our weak link.
I think that's a compliment.
Yeah. The 3 in the middle, I'm going Caicedo in the pivot with Enzo one side, Gallagher the other side. Conor Gallagher needs to keep his place in this team now. I just think he's going from strength to strength under Poch.
He is, isn't it?
He's doing really, really well. And again, we were talking about England earlier and like the Calvin Phillips role, which obviously if he's not getting game time, Southgate does what he wants, but you'd imagine someone like a Conor Gallagher could come in there. Front line, I'm going Palmer on the right, Jackson through the middle, Sterling on the left. Now, my only concern here about Sterling is he doesn't really score in the bigger games. And doesn't.
But you can't drop a guy like that, especially not in his form anyway. So for me, and I love the fact that you got Palmer now. I say love the fact, but it's better for you guys because now you can put him back to his favourite left.
Yeah,
so I think
this little saying's sort of been worn out now, but someone made it, and then about 1 million other people made it. But it's very much true. Cole Palmer's proven to be the player that we hoped Kai Havertz was. When we bought Kai Havertz in,
I like him.
When we bought him in, I was thinking that's what he could be. And people keep going to me, why did Pep let Palmer go? Why did he let him go? And I think, mate, when you're that good in terms of Pep and the team he's got,
sometimes someone's got to give. And was it 40 mil?
Yeah. Yeah,
everyone at the time went, why'd you play 40 mil for a guy who can't play first team? He's looking like a snip now, isn't it?
He looks
looking
class,
like a snip
really,
now.
Really good. And he'd obviously, again, be a dark horse to maybe make that Euro 2024 squad. That's one that we could look at. Yeah. Right, let's cap it off. Score predictions for this match. I'll start because I'm more interested to see where you're going with this.
Go on.
I am going for a 1-1 draw. I think I'd probably be being overly optimistic if I said that, Chelsea are going to go and, put Arsenal to the sword or something like that. I think a 1-1 draw, one of the reasons why I'm going for it as well is I actually do think it's quite realistic. I think we could very much see that scoreline in this match. But I just at this moment in time, give me another 2 wins or so and I'll go, right, now I'm real confident. But I think the teams that we beat, as impressed I've been by it, we probably were supposed to beat them. And now I'm looking at this one and I'm going, do you know what? I think as the players and as myself as a fan going into this really tough run of fixtures, if we got a 1-1 draw here against Arsenal, I'd be really happy with it. What do you think?
2-1 Arsenal. I think we've got just about what it takes to beat you at the current moment. Even with our key players out, I feel like Martinelli being in there, the work rate of Gabriel Jesus, the magic of Odegaard, I think it's an experience thing now. We go to Stamford Bridge and there's an expectation, even though it's going to be tricky, like I said. I feel like it's not going to be easy, despite looking at the league table and whatever. It's not going to be easy, but I think there is an expectancy and expectation and also a capability of us going there and literally just professionally getting the job done. And surprise, surprise, I wouldn't be surprised if Eddie Nketiah gets the first or second, just gets on the score sheet. So I'm going 2-1 Arsenal. No, I don't want to say no doubt, that's rude, but 2-1 Arsenal. Worst case scenario for us is a 1-1 draw.
Well, myself and Joel will discuss the match a little bit after it has taken place. But in the meantime, if you are not already, please make sure you are subscribed to the 5UK YouTube channel.
Links in the description. My links are in the description as well for my socials. Follow me. I'm not just that gooner that I love a bit of banter, but it's all in jest.
And from like an outsider looking in, the content that's going out on that channel, like,
you enjoying it,
mate? For me, nostalgia-wise as well. You've had Paul Scholes on recently, Michael Owen on recently,
Kevin Prince Boateng.
Really interesting piece with Kevin Prince Boateng. So the big names keep sort of coming thick and fast
we
at the
had
moment.
Gerard Bowen the other day as well, which was good. We did some bits and pieces with James Maddison. But don't worry, we're working on the Chelsea players as well. So it's looking really good at the moment.
So that will be linked in the description. I want you lot to let me know your thoughts in the comments. I want score predictions. If you've got time, I want your starting lineups for Chelsea taking on Arsenal in this match. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell so that you get a notification every time one of my videos goes live, and I will see you all in the next one.